Is the Glock 48 and the Glock 43x compatible when it comes to swapping parts? So if you guys have been following the channel, a while ago, I made kind of like a build series on the Glock 48, and I was kind of setting it up for the purpose of personal defense, CCW use, so a more practical application when it comes to being able to use it. Now, what I was thinking is that there are a few kind of like gadgets that I've wanted to try on firearms before, but I never really had the opportunity to. So there's another kind of build I had in mind of being able to design and set up, but I didn't want to spend a huge amount of money being able to remodify. Now, it will end up costing money because you're going to be buying parts that are not going to be standard, and you want to get kind of customized parts, but I was trying to keep it as low as I can in regards to being able to test those items without breaking the bank way too much. So now the options were to be able to get another firearm entirely, which obviously will be expensive, and then on top of that, being able to add those modifications and things that I like that would be preferences on the new setup, specifically the new items that I want to try out. The other option would be is to see what am I able to do with this Glock 48 that I already have and be able to just get those parts and components separately. So of the few things that I wanted to try out is I wanted to see what it was like to have a lightened slide, so being able to have window cuts and things like that, as well as kind of where the main thing of where this started was going to be a compensator for Glocks. Now, compensators are obviously something very debated, but when it comes to like competition use or just being able to shoot faster, whether you say a 9mm is fully controllable or not, having a compensated gun will ultimately still make it even more controllable in that case. So what I was trying to figure out is trying to get a compensator that would work for the Glock 48, as well as also be able to get window cuts and things like that. Now, my thought process is that I didn't want to have something that would be overly long. So for the Glock 48, it's already a pretty good size in my opinion. So being able to add a compensator and things like that would ultimately make it much, much longer. So as you know, the Glock 48 is pretty much the exact same thing as a Glock 19, but it's thinner. So then adding a compensator on top of that, you're getting into the area of at least being the length of a Glock 17, which although is able to be carried, is not obviously super comfortable. So what I figured out is that if you're able to get a Glock 43x upper, the slide, completed slide, that will be able to still function on the Glock 48 frame. So with the same frame, you're able to remove and replace this slide to be like a Glock 43x. Now this is similar very much to the AR-15 platform, where if you switch out the upper of the AR-15, you could swap calibers, you could swap barrel lengths, and it can make it very fun to be able to kind of have different preset setups based on the preference that you have. So the things to be able to be aware of is, first of all, you need to get a Glock 43x. You can't get a Glock 43. The Glock 43x, to my understanding, is going to be what will be compatible with the Glock 48 frame. So what I was able to do is I was able to pick this up. I happened to get this one from Zephyr Precision. I'm going to do a more dedicated video on this as well. But what this is a slide that has already the window cuts inserted, as well as this agency arms compensator. Now, the reason why I went with this kind of setup and the reason why I was interested in the Glock 43x setup is because if you have a Glock 43x slide and you put it onto a Glock 48, what that ultimately does is it makes it ever so slightly longer than the standard size of a Glock 48. So if I were to take this slide and put it over here and I put the Glock 43x behind it, you could see that in the front, there's a slight protrusion right over there of the overall length. So it's not getting really into the full length of a Glock 17 length, but it is still a little bit longer. But again, if it was on the 48, it would be significantly longer. If you were to go to Agency Arms and get their single port, this one happens to be the dual port option. If you were to get the single port, to my understanding, that would be pretty much the exact same length as the Glock 48. So that you still have compatibility with holsters and everything like that. So for me, if I just switch out this slide over here, and I'm going to put on, so this is the Glock 43x piece, right? So that's the Glock 43x slide. Now it's going to be almost the exact same length, just a little bit longer than the Glock 48. Now over here, I have a T-Rex Arms holster. If I insert it, when I purchased the holster, I wanted to make sure to include that if I ever do end up getting a compensator, it would still be compatible. So if you have a holster that is compatible with a compensator of any kind, then your holsters will still be able to fit in the Glock 48 holster. So right now I have an entirely different setup that I'm going to test out. I was curious about being able to try it. And with this setup, I should be able to see what it's like to have a compensator on this gun without spending a wildly amount of money. So I'm going to be doing a dedicated video on the slide, the compensator, and kind of giving you a breakdown on that, but I kind of wanted to do an intro because for me, I was very curious about being able to get a Glock 48 frame and a Glock 43x slide and seeing what the cross compatibility is for that setup. If you have any questions before getting into this new series of the build, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. This is Raziel Cohen with ndftraining.com. Thank you for watching.